all these drawings? This is our story.
No. This is your story.
Welcome back to the channel, my friends. This is part number 2 in my 2-part series going over the possibility of Kratos dying in God of War Ragnarok. In the previous video, we looked at this death through the lens of the information we gathered surrounding the mural in Jotunheim, as depicted at the end of God of War 2018, while also looking at the history of sons murdering their fathers in the God of War franchise. Hit this card here to watch that video if you haven't already done so, as this video is more of a companion piece to the first one. In this video, we will be taking a look at the concept of death as it is written in Norse mythology, and look at its beliefs and stories regarding death and the afterlife. As we very well know at this point, Kratos has flirted with death more times than most, and has even come back from the dead at numerous points during his bloody career. Can he do it again in Norse myth? Potentially, and that is why we are going to examine this in more detail in this video. Just remember, Norse mythology is vast and contains with it many diverse scripts of history that shed insight in the concept of death and the afterlife, of which we are going to jump right into. Just remember that these legends and myths all have different and vast interpretations. Just because what you hear or read about in different recallings of Norse myth doesn't mean that they are inherently wrong, as these are stories passed down from generation to generation, and interpretations grow and evolve throughout time. As God of War has its own interpretations that changes things up a bit with Norse myth, it wouldn't be wise to assume that all of this might be true, as at the end of the day, it comes down to the developers and the story they want to tell. That being said, try to enjoy the stories we are about to read about the vastness of Norse mythology and how delicately the developers of God of War are weaving their own stories in with these fabled tales. Let's begin, shall we? Many of you may or may not have heard of Valhalla, right? Well, if not, or you need a touch-up in the basic understanding of Valhalla, it goes more or less like this. If a warrior were to die on the battlefield, notice how I emphasize battlefield here, then it is said that Odin, along with the assistance of the Valkyries, will select a said fallen warrior in combat to be summoned to Valhalla, the mighty halls of warriors that dine and drink with Odin, and other gods and fallen warriors in these decorated halls of power in Asgard. Valhalla and the fallen warriors who reside there are thus the warriors who will go to battle to accompany the gods when Ragnarok were to happen. My god, how many times have I said the word warriors at this point? The key here is that a warrior must perish in battle and be deemed worthy enough by Odin and his Valkyries to be selected to be graced with the presence of the gods and given passage to Valhalla. These fallen warriors are called Einherjar. Now, as Kratos and Atreus are indeed ushering in Ragnarok, what this does with Odin and his sentiment of Kratos and Atreus is left up in the air. We can assume that Asgard is quite unhappy with this, as Kratos is at it yet again with the Valkyries, as we can see them going at it here in this new story trailer. Thor confronting Kratos at his house at the end of the game also leads into this, as Thor, being a mighty warrior on the front lines of Asgard, doesn't appear to be very happy with the Ghost of Sparta. Them engaging in battle confirms just this. So perhaps the idea of Kratos going to Valhalla, if he were to be slain on the battlefield by Atreus or not, would probably not come to fruition, as it would be improbable to be graced with the majestic halls of Valhalla. So if Kratos were to die while not on the battlefield, then where would he go? Contrary to what one might think, many people, regardless of whether or not they were good or bad, actually get sent to Helheim. See, Helheim is depicted in myth to be located beneath the grounds of Midgard, where the common folk go to exist. Unlike perceptions of hell in modern-day society, those who get sent to hell in Norse myth, and yes, that is hell with one L, are everyday people like you or me who lived ordinary lives. This could also include people who are warriors and just happen to not die on the battlefield, thus are exempt from the possibility of becoming an Einherjar of Valhalla. It is said that the two realms, Midgard and Hel, are separated by an uncrossable river joined by massive, towering gates. When a soul is said to pass into the realm of Helheim, it is said that it is stuck there forever and is impossible to venture back to Midgard or any other realm. Not even a god has the ability to come back from Helheim. In fact, Norse myth states that Loki tricked the great Balder into a fatal act that killed Balder, sending him to Helheim. The goddess Hel was the only one who had the ability to send Balder back to Midgard, but even then would not, as that required everyone in Midgard to mourn the loss of Balder. Everyone but one person, with that person perceived to be Loki, mourned the loss of Balder, and thus Balder was said to have lived an eternity in the depths of Hell. With Atreus being Loki in the God of War universe, and with Loki's daughter being the goddess of Hell herself, who knows what would happen to Kratos if he found himself sent to Helheim without the aid of the Realm Transporter? Could Loki convince his daughter Hel to perhaps do something to Kratos that could benefit Atreus and Kratos in the grand scheme of things? I don't know, like maybe fool the Aesir gods and have an epic comeback story for Kratos? That would be sick! And that would indeed be Loki truly living up to his god of mischief ways. But what do you think about this? Chime down below. Also, before we go on, make sure to square triangle that like button to push this video out to more people. With a massive Einherjar of viewers just like you, we can win the battle against the YouTube gods, and I would greatly appreciate all the love and support you give this channel. Let's once again aim for 500 likes, good people. Also, mash that subscribe button like we did to poor old Hercules back on Mount Olympus. If we can get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the month, I will be giving away a few copies of God of War Ragnarok. We can do it, good people! Love you all, fellow Einherjar, and I truly appreciate all the support I get from every one of you. Now, it is said that those who were to die while sailing were sent to their own resting place at the bottom of the sea, where the giantess Ran would overlook these fallen sailors. So in Norse myth, unless you were truly a terrible person, you wouldn't be cast out to particularly horrible places, as it is said that the vast majority of those who die enter the gates of Helheim. One particular place in Helheim is indeed reserved for those truly bad and evil, called Nostrand, which is indeed a place where many people were afraid of. This place has very few details about it, but rest assured, it's quite the uninviting place. Full of snakes and blood and just, yeah, not much fun to be had over there. The concept of death in Norse mythology has many different layers and has many different interpretations, and as to what befalls Kratos' fate if he were to die remains to be seen. It is widely believed in Norse legend that people are composed of 4 primary characteristics, 1 being physical appearance. 2 is a being or a spirit in the figure of some sort of animal. 3 is one's personality or character, and 4 is the quality of said person's life. When a person is to die, the spirit of the person is sent to one of the realms to live out the rest of their existence, with most spirits sent to hell. However, various parts of that person's life is also said to manifest in Midgard in various other ways, including having the presence of the deceased being felt immediately within that person's family, and also able to reincarnate as a member within their family line. There are many fascinating interpretations to this, and could have great impacts if Kratos were to, say, perish in God of War Ragnarok. Or perhaps Kratos were to be reincarnated at a further point later on in the franchise. The implications of Kratos' death could be near endless, and Santa Monica Studio can take this concept in ways that fall more in line with the Norse myth, or perhaps they could make it so that Kratos doesn't abide by the foundations of Norse myth, as Kratos is Greek and belongs to that pantheon of mythology. Would Kratos be exempt from death as we see it in Norse mythology? I don't think so, But again, this is mere speculation, and we truly have no idea where Kratos' death could ultimately take the series. The Draugr enemies, as we see them in God of War 2018, are those who lived bad, evil lives whose souls remained in Midgard, trapped within the unpleasant corpses of the Draugr. Now, I don't think Kratos will be a Draugr per se, but putting a meaning to these beings that we came to bash their faces in the previous game is certainly eye-opening. One that sheds light that these Draugr were human beings whose spirits were cursed to live in Midgard not as themselves, but as the twisted beings their souls became in the embodiment of a Draugr. Norse mythology largely strays away from the concepts of death that many of us are accustomed to in present-day times, whereas morality doesn't play a significant role in where a person may end up in Norse mythology, other than the aforementioned case of being truly terrible. Now, we've taken quite an extensive look at Norse beliefs of the afterlife and the concept of death, and I encourage you to look at this more if you are interested by consulting the resources I obtained for the purpose of this video, of which you may refer to in the description. That about wraps up this video of the concept of death in Norse mythology and its potential implications on Kratos. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed researching it, so go on, fellow Einherjar, and strike that like button if you liked it, and smash in that subscribe button if you loved it. I'll gladly take all the Einherjar we can get. Thank you all so much for the awesome support you've shown the channel, and I look forward to seeing all you fellow warriors in the next video. Peace, good people.